This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. Coming up on this week's show, a ABC Island cruise on Carnival Magic. And as always, staff writer Richard Sims here to bring us this week's cruise news. Jumping to him now. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Doug.
So let's start with an update on a story we've been tracking since the weekend. What's the latest on Celebrity Infinity?
Well, it's sort of a good news, bad news situation developing where the ship is concerned. So last week, the ship had a technical issue, and it seems to have been a small fire, which left it dead in the water, and it had to be escorted by tugboats to Greece, which was supposed to be its final stop, but they got there a day early. Guests had to disembark. It was a little bit of a mess. That's where things were when last we checked on this story. So the good news, bad news I mentioned, well, the bad news is that the sailing, which was supposed to set sail on Monday, had to be canceled. The day before guests were set to embark, they received notice that the trip had been canceled. The email said in part, and I'm quoting here, "While our experts have been working diligently, we need additional time to complete necessary assessments and repairs." So what good news could possibly be coming out of this? Well, it's good news for the folks at Celebrity, because the sailing they had to cancel was an 11-day voyage. So that gives them a little bit of room and a little bit of time to figure out what's going wrong. Hopefully the next sailing will be able to go as planned, but we haven't heard anything yet. And I say whatever is wrong because so far they haven't actually revealed what caused the power outage in the first place. There's kind of some good news for passengers too, because those who were set to sail and had their trip axed, they got a 100% refund, which obviously you would expect that. But they also got a 100% future cruise credit that they can use anytime in the next year. They also had various hotel and flight related expenses taken care of. So, obviously not ideal. You thought you were going on an 11-day cruise and instead you're going back home. But, the fact that you got a free mini vacation because they're paying for they're helping pay for your flights. They're helping pay for your hotel, and you get a future cruise for completely free. So, not the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah, but a lot of logistics there that are totally derailed with flights and airfare and taking PTO time to take this cruise. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like a nightmare to me, but yeah, Celebrity did step up and they are taking care of the passengers, but gosh, on the back end, logistics.
Yeah, the logistics are terrible. And I also, this is sort of, it was a best of Greece trip that was about to go. So this is a special cruise. This is something that people save a long time for, and that this is not something that it's locals jumping on and going for a cruise. This is something that people flew to. This is something, people flew from other countries to do. So yeah, you're right. The logistics on this are going to be difficult, and we keep them in our thoughts.
Next up, we have a cruise ship taking part in a rescue at sea.
As you know, maritime law requires that ships, if they see a distressed vessel, they are required by maritime law to help them as long as it doesn't put the rescuing ship or its passengers in any sort of jeopardy. So according to various social media posts, the captain on Radiance of the Seas spotted a small boat in distress off the coast of Cuba. At first, according to Royal Caribbean blog, which did a great job of gathering up some of the different sources and compiling it, according to them, it sounds as if the original plan was that the captain was going to hang back and let the Coast Guard come in and rescue these folks. But the ship was taking on water and time was of the essence. So instead, they did bring the 6 passengers who were on the smaller boat aboard. The captain later announced that the unexpected guests would remain with them on board until the ship's next stop, which was Grand Cayman. So, there you go.
All right. And a small group of protesters managed to cause, a little bit of work stoppage for Royal Caribbean's latest project.
If there's one thing we've seen time and again, it's that any large-scale project mounted by a cruise line is going to face opposition along the way. That's definitely proven to be the case where Perfect Day Mexico, the latest private destination being developed in Costa Maya for Royal Caribbean, is concerned. The latest roadblock found locals blocking the port entrance to bring attention to their desire for improvements to things like, the roads and the infrastructure, and they want something to do with the naming of their community that I really didn't quite understand. This is on top of an already in progress legal injunction the company is dealing with regarding whether or not the government had the right to change how the land is used, the land usage rights, without a more public-facing process. There is also concern about how the project might impact a mangrove field. I don't even know what the right word is. A crop of mangroves. Anyway, Royal Caribbean is bringing in an independent environmental panel to help move the process along. And like I said, none of this is at all unusual. For example, right now there's also we've talked in the past about a proposed new port being built in Tampa that would be near the bridge, but on the other side because larger boats can't go under the bridge. And that is facing similar challenges, So anytime there is a large scale sort of thing like this, there are concerns raised, usually involving the environmental impact. And that's something that cruise lines go into these projects knowing they're going to have to face and deal with.
And it looks like Carnival Cruise Line is adding some new venues to its Australian ships. Well, I don't want to say brand new, but new to them.
Right, new to them, exactly. It's there's an interesting little side note to this story. So this is aboard the Carnival Adventure and the Carnival Encounter, both of which sail out of Australia, I believe out of Sydney. They're getting two new venues, new to those ship venues. One is the Fahrenheit 555 Steakhouse, which frankly, I'm kind of surprised didn't already exist on these ships. I think of every ship in the fleet having some version of the Fahrenheit 555 Steakhouse. So the fact that they don't have that already is kind of unusual to me. But here's the twist. They're also getting a burger place. But if you're over in Australia listening and you're like, yay, we're finally getting Guy's Burgers. No, you're not. Not on this ship anyway. Instead, you are getting something called the Topside Grill. It will serve burgers. I'm sure they will be delicious, but they will not be Guy's Burgers. Sorry, you're still going to have to go to another country. Come on over to America and jump on one of the Carnival ships here, and you can have your fill of Guy's Burgers.
And it looks like the folks at NCL are continuing with their new build spree.
This story is interesting on its own, but it becomes even more so when you take into account the next story we're going to do. How's that for a tease? But first, let's talk about this story. This is 3 new ships. Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings has entered a nearly $2 billion deal with Fincantieri Shipyard to construct the new ships. Now, it's important to understand that this is not Norwegian Cruise Line, but the parent company, Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings. So this isn't 3 new ships for Norwegian Cruise Line, but rather one for them, one for Oceania, and one for Region 7 Seas, all of which, kind of fall under the same corporate umbrella, the same way, Princess and Aida fall under the Carnival Cruise Line umbrella. On the surface, 3 ships, no big deal. But look at the big picture, and you realize that between the 3 different divisions of NCLH, they now have 17 ships on order with deliveries between now and 2037. 8 are for Norwegian, 5 are for Oceania, and 4. Am I pronouncing that right? I always feel like I'm saying that wrong.
I think so.
Okay, well, we're going to go with it until somebody sends us a tersely worded email telling us that this is how it's really pronounced. And the other 4 are for Region 7 Seas. That's a whole lot of ships coming down the pike, and that's just for one company. That's not taking into account anything being built for Carnival or Royal or anyone else. So people who like jumping on new ships are going to be real busy over the next decade or so.
Okay, so now let's talk about the story you just teased a minute ago.
Okay, and this also has to do with Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings. Elliott Management, which is an activist investment company, they now own a 10% share of Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings. They sent a letter to the board of directors basically saying they should replace themselves. This actually, okay, we're going to go old school here. And Doug, you won't get this reference, but many listeners will. There was a famous scene on Dynasty where Alexis Carrington wandered into the boardroom of Carrington, whatever the name of the company was. And she basically, in her little English accent, said, "If you do not do as I want, I will fire you on the spot and replace the board with one that will do my bidding." That is basically what Elliott Investment Management did. They sent a letter and a package with details about the various ways in which the current board of directors of Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings have not done due diligence in running the company, and they have not, sort of given the shareholders their money's worth. They highly disapprove of the new CEO, who has no experience running a cruise ship company. In fact, he headed up Subway and Burger King before this, and he has been on the board for 10 years, but has no real world experience running a cruise ship company. So make of that what you will. They're also highly critical of Frank Del Rio, the former CEO, and in essence say that the company has been wildly mismanaged. They think the stock should be doing much better, and they compare it to how both Carnival and Royal Caribbean stocks are doing. One of the really interesting things they take aim at is what a poor job they say that Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings did when it comes to Great Stirrup Cay. Here's the thing. If you look back at the history of the company, Norwegian was the very first line to buy a private island and set people there and blah, blah, blah. So they were a trendsetter there. But over the coming years, they then let that island sort of sit the way it was. They didn't do a whole lot of redevelopment other than the addition of Silver Cove a few years ago, where all of a sudden you look over and Royal Caribbean is building, huge water parks and transforming what was Coco Cay into Perfect Day Coco Cay. And Carnival has done the same with Celebration Key. So basically, this investment firm is saying Norwegian had to jump on all of them, by almost a decade, and completely failed to sort of look into the future and see how these islands could be transformed. So that's sort of among the many complaints they have. They also take a really good look at the launch of Norwegian Prima and how much money was spent and, in their eyes, wasted on the launch of that ship. They talk about the millions of dollars that Frank Del Rio spent on art for the Prima class ships, the sculpture garden on the walkway and all that. So they make a pretty good case, honestly, when you read the entire package. Now, it's not like they're down on Norwegian in any way, shape, or form. I mean, they bought 10% of the company. Clearly, they are not, down on it. They say that the company has many things going for it, including its fleet of ships. They really very much rave about the cruise and how the people, what a good reputation they have. They have good repeat business, but there's just a lot of areas that they think, especially when it comes to secondary spending, meaning things off of the ship, not money on, the ship or the crew, but behind the scenes spending. They're very, very critical of how Norwegian has massively increased that spending on areas that could easily be cut. So all of this makes it very interesting to look at what will happen next. We just talked about the fact that the company ordered 3 brand new ships. That is for Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings as opposed to Norwegian Cruise Line. But it'll be interesting to see if this letter has any effect. Does the board, in fact, look at itself and say, gee, you're right, we should fire ourselves? And if so, what kind of experienced people do they bring in? Clearly the new CEO people were surprised by this guy's appointment, quite frankly, and it happened sort of out of the blue. So this is a major move. The stock immediately went up upon their announcement of, wanting to make big changes and how they thought the stock could do better. So they're saying that they think with the changes that they're suggesting, the stock could go up by like 159%. So, and in full disclosure, I own stock in Norwegian Cruise Line. I think it's always important to, disclose that kind of information. But yeah, this could have a very big long-term impact on the future of Norwegian. So we will definitely keep an eye. They have given a deadline. They say that the Elliott has told the board that they have until the next shareholder meeting to make changes. If they don't, they're going to go directly to the shareholders. The next shareholder meeting has not been set yet, but traditionally it happens around June for Norwegian. So there is a ticking time clock here.
Yeah, this will be interesting because Elliott Investment Management also had about a 10% share of Southwest Airlines, and they're the ones who, well, they pushed Southwest to make more revenue, implementing baggage fees and then later on seat fees as well, which the baggage fees at the time were supposed to generate like $300 million annually and the seat fees over $1 billion annually. So there's that fine line, right, between making the shareholders money and keeping the consumers happy.
Yeah, very much so. I have a friend who works in the investment banking business, and I asked him about Elliott, and he said a lot of people see them as the bad guy because they do come in and they make changes, but they are not like corporate raiders who come in, buy big shares of a company or an entire company and then divide it up and sell it for pieces. He said they're not bad guys, but they are determined to do what is in the best interest of the shareholders. So you're right. That's the fine line that they'll be walking, is what increases the share price, which is good for the shareholders, but doesn't wind up, turning off the average consumer because you don't want to take a hit where your satisfaction rate is concerned.
Yeah, and if it increases 158% or whatever you just said, that's going to put the stock price at around $60 a share.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly. It already went up a couple dollars yesterday. So people, it'll be interesting to see what the long-term impact is. I think it was a really brave and bold move to come in and publicly say, y'all are doing a terrible job, fire yourselves. I just thought that was amazing. I want to do that. I want to go to my next corporate meeting and just walk in and be like, you guys are terrible at this. Somebody new needs to take over.
Yeah, that letter didn't hold back at all. All right.
Not a bit.
If you want to read about these stories and more, head over to cruiseradio.net. All right, staff writer Richard Sims, thanks, man.
Hey, glad to be here.
You're listening to Cruise Radio, America's trusted voice of the cruise industry.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
Tim and his wife just returned from an 8-night cruise on Carnival Magic. It was one of those ABC cruises, which is Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. He joins us on the line to talk all about it, all the way from Fargo, North Dakota, where I'm sure it's still snowing, Tim, right?
It's snowing. I'm looking out my window right now and just shaking my fist and saying, go away.
All right. Well, welcome back to the show, Tim. And as we always do, we'll take a step back here. I might know the answer to this question, but what made you want to take this sailing to the ABC Islands?
No, definitely is a part of it. We like to get away in the wintertime. So this was our first January cruise. We usually go in February, but we took January this year. And ABC's been on our list for a long time. We see everybody online talking about it. My wife definitely, she really wanted to hit it. So finally got it in this year.
Fair enough. So you got the heck out of Fargo and made your way to Port Miami. Any pre-cruise time in Miami before the sailing?
We always fly in a day early. So I think we were in by about 4 o'clock. So just basically came in, got to our hotel and hung out for the evening.
What hotel did you pick this time?
We stayed at the Hilton Continental down on Collins Avenue there in Miami Beach.
Nice. South Beach. How was that?
That was nice. It was warm enough that since we're there, even though it's getting a little later in the evening, it was still warm enough that we were able to walk around. We went to the beach and just walked and up and down the area there and checked things out. And it's been quite a few years since we've been down there. So this is kind of nice to walk around and see the area again.
January has been a heck of a month getting from the hotels to the cruise port, whether it be the Miami Marathon or construction or 10 to 12 cruise ships at Port Miami. Did you have any issues getting to the port that morning?
No, surprisingly, because we actually had received a text from Carnival warning us about construction and everything, and that we should leave early. So we actually left early, and we got there extra early because we really didn't have much of an issue.
So how was embarkation, and how long did it take you from the curb to the ship?
Well, that was probably about an hour, and that's part of the getting there extra early, I guess, that we were there well before our time and everything. So we did end up sitting there for a while. Plus, it just seemed like they took a little bit longer to start boarding the ship for whatever reason.
What status are you with Carnival?
We are gold.
Now, are you doing the diamond or platinum run before the September 1 deadline to lock it in?
I wish we could, but no, we still probably need, I think, another 2 7-day cruises before them, so that's not going to happen.
Gotcha. All right, so you make your way on board Carnival Magic. Now, have you been on board before?
Not on Magic, no.
Okay, so what were your first impressions as you boarded the ship? I mean, at this point, the ship is around 15 years old.
Yeah, it's still a very nice ship. It is scheduled for dry dock coming up here really soon, so we were kind of worried that we'd get in there and find out that, it's been neglected or something, just kind of waiting for the dry dock to come up. But actually, I didn't feel like it seemed too bad at all. I mean, there was a few things where we went, they're probably going to replace this carpet here or something, but nothing too drastic that we saw at all.
What is your boarding day ritual? As soon as you get on the ship, you do this.
It's muster station. And then depending on what they have to eat, but usually being it's not on every ship, it's off to get some the pig and anchor, and then probably some tacos. And then I saved the burger for Guy's Burger, more like our supper time.
There you go. Fair enough. What kind of stateroom did you book on this 7-night or 8-night cruise rather? And what did you think of it?
We booked a Cloud9 Spa interior cabin, and we did the spa first time like a year ago, and we loved it. So we decided we were going to do that again. We were in the very front of the ship, and I'm not sure, maybe this is a question you could answer. Are those waters a lot more choppy this time of year, or when you go further south like we did on this particular trip? Because, boy, we were pretty sure that's what it was. We didn't think it was the gym. We felt like even though we were up on the 9th floor, it just sure seemed like you could hear it hitting the waves.
Oh, well. How does a Cloud9 Spa interior stateroom differ from a regular just interior room?
The cabin itself, I would say, they give it a little different color and stuff, but basically I would say it's no different. I think the door was like a wood panel door, so it looks a little fancier, but there's nothing really to it any different. In fact, I think I'd have to ask my wife because she probably stole it. I think they give you some like a better brand of soap or something on but other than that, there's not really anything different about it.
Were you closer to the spa access?
Yes, you could. This ship, we stayed, I think it was Radiance, where you actually had to go to the first set of elevators to get up. But this one actually has a single elevator practically right around the corner from where we were. So we could just go right out of our cabin. We were on 11th floor, by the way, and then you could get in that little elevator, head up to the 14th floor, even all the way up to Serenity with that elevator, actually. And so that was a really nice touch that we could get in and out of there pretty easy.
Being on the 11th floor, did you have any noise issues either above or below you?
From what I could tell, right above us should have been locker rooms. So we never really heard anything. We thought a few times we maybe heard some weights dropping, but nothing that was too drastic. It was more those hitting those waves, because there was a few times where the whole ship shook. So that's why we knew it was waves. It's this big boom, so.
staying up that close to the front of the ship, you can definitely hear that just the smack, and it shakes the heck out of the whole ship before it kind of absorbs the vibration and heads aft there. So let's talk about the food here on Carnival Magic, and we'll start at the Lido Marketplace, which is the buffet for Carnival. What'd you think?
The only thing that, the food is good, the basic foods for the buffet and everything. The problem I have with this style of ship is the way the buffet is set up. It just really gets congested at times, especially there is 2 separate buffet lines. But they really only open one at certain times, and it can really get backed up. And sometimes you just want to sneak in and grab one item, but you feel like you got to stand in the long line just to get there because it is so backed up,
Did it ever feel too crowded as far as like looking for a seat?
It wasn't too bad. There were a few times we walked around a little bit, but we were always able to find something to sit, So it wasn't too bad as far as that part went.
I know the main dining room is always hit or miss for you. Did you partake this cruise?
Yeah, we did do it on this one, and yeah, that was all good. We do my time dining, so we could just show up anytime, and we never really had to wait or anything. So it was all really good, and the staff was great, and the food was good.
What meal really stood out to you?
I'm usually doing a steak, the flat iron steak or whatever kind of steak they have. My wife's the one who varies some chicken and everything. So yeah, it was good, and it was and she, God, I wish I could remember what she ate, but she really loved what she had.
With the anytime dining, do you have to check in on the app before you go down there, or do you just walk up to the podium and they seat you?
You're supposed to check in on the app, and being that we were up on the 11th floor, and we just thought, we can hit the elevators because our dining was right in the front of the ship too. I did it right when we were going to walk out of the cabin, and right away it said your table's ready and waiting. So we were like hurrying down because you only had 10 minutes to get there, be said. So, but yeah, you're supposed to check in on the app, I guess, and we had no problems with that.
I forgot about Carnival's Grab and Goes by the pool, Guy's Burger Joint, and Blue Iguana Cantina. What did you think of those 2 venues?
Well, Guy's Burgers, it was an 8-day cruise. I had at least 8 Guy's Burgers, and the tacos. I love both of those very much. I was disappointed this time. I do really like the pig and anchor usually, but for some reason this time, I don't know, they were overcooking. It was a little burnt and stuff. It just wasn't as good, which, bothered me because I really, really like it and I want to enjoy that. But other than that, yeah, all those things were just good.
Any specialty dining on this one?
No.
How did the entertainment stack up for you for the 8-night sailing?
No, this one was tough because we had seen all the shows before. I think there was one we hadn't seen that was new to us. But other than that, we'd already seen all the shows. So we don't mind going to the shows, but yet what these canned shows are not the greatest in the world, especially when you've seen them before. So we didn't do that. The comedians, they switched out the comedians. So I can't remember how many we had. We actually had quite a few different comedians, and none of them were that good. We really, really enjoyed the comedy shows quite often. And this time just was not up there. I'm not quite sure what the deal was with that. So that was fine. But other than that, we really like watching bands and things like that. And we actually, the band that was there, 3 of the people were from a cruise that we were on before. So that was kind of interesting to see and the people again. And we actually talked to them a little bit saying, hey, weren't you on Vista with us? And they're like, yeah. So we enjoy that kind of entertainment around the ship though.
Do y'all ever hang out in the Red Frog pub?
Not too often. We have for some trivias and stuff, but yeah, not too often.
How were the sea days as far as crowds and congestion?
I didn't really think it was that bad at all. Getting around the ship, the only time you really felt like you were kind of trying to fight crowds was in the main atrium thing, and they'd be having a table set up with inch of gold or T-shirts or something, and they would be, really hard to get around there. Other than that, everywhere else seemed pretty good. Whenever we weren't using the spa and just wanted to go get a hot tub up on Serenity or something like that. And even the main pool, were able to get in the main pool and get a spot to put our stuff and sit when we were done and everything. So we really didn't have much trouble getting around or doing the things that we wanted to do on the ship at all.
How was the casino with the smoke situation in and around it?
That could be fairly bad at times. It doesn't bother me as much as my wife, but there was some times when the casino was really busy that, yes, that would get to be quite a bit. But they do have the non-smoking casino, but One, I don't know if they're using reverse osmosis or whatever. We couldn't quite tell, but there was a weird smell to that casino every time we went in there. And it's dead. There was about 8 people in there every time we went in there. So it's not kind of, it doesn't quite have the atmosphere and the fun vibe going on when you go in that particular one. They had some nice machines and all that kind of stuff in there, but there was just nothing going on. Even the workers were just kind of standing at the bar because they just didn't have anybody to wait on, so.
Did you play at all?
We did. And, we probably still lost more than we won, but we actually I really like it when you can play, you win a little, you look some or whatever. And even if you lose by the time you're done, I like that you get to kind of keep going when you gamble like that. When it just goes so fast, that's just no fun to me. So we actually got to play quite a bit and quite a while. I learned a lesson though, in that this isn't for the casino, but beforehand, I went online to put on some cruise cash, so our bill wouldn't be so large at the end of the thing. I accidentally chose entertainment cash. I didn't even realize there was a difference. You can only use that for Build-A-Bear, Deal or No Deal, or bingo. And so we had to play bingo, even though we had never done that before. And, we won $140 on bingo. So I got my money back because I had put $100 on the entertainment. So got my money back. So that was kind of nice. We actually would have won more, but there was a 3-way win. So we had to split it 3 ways.
So then, like you said, entertainment cash. So it sounds like you might just be better buying a gift card and applying it to your account. This way there's no confusion going into the Carnival Cruise Manager and buying the wrong funds. I
guess, yeah. And I don't know if I just didn't see what I was clicking or what and everything. And I went to guest services and asked them, I said that was a mistake. I didn't mean to do that. It was supposed to be a cruise cash, and they could not switch it over.
Gotcha.
So stuck with it. So.
All right. So you leave Port Miami and you're steaming southbound. What was your first port of call and what did you do there?
Aruba. There, we just got off and we took the public transportation to Eagle Beach. Rented some chairs and umbrella and just spent the day at the beach. I will tell people that when you take the public bus, when we got off, they said, here's where you come, where you're being dropped off is where you come get back on the bus. So we got back on the bus at that spot, but it continued on its route going the opposite direction.
Oh, no.
And when you get to the end, they say, end of the line, get off. So we had to get off and pay to get back on to head all the way back. But it was kind of nice. We got to go see a lot more of the island. We just didn't know we were going to have to get off and repay.
So
but it's like $5 a person or something.
Without taking the extended tour, how long did it take you from the cruise port to Eagle Beach?
I think we had to wait like 10 minutes for the bus to come after we bought tickets. And I can't remember it, but it was probably 15 to 20 minutes at that. It really wasn't that long at all.
Okay. So that was the A. The B is Bonaire. How was that day?
That was nice. And we did this little trolley train thing that took us on a tour. And when we read the reviews, everybody was saying, oh, they took us to the slums and all this stuff, and it was terrible. And we still did it anyway because we thought, well, let's just see what this is about. And it was nice. I mean, if you like to go, I don't want to use the word slums. That's what everybody used online. But they actually just took you into where everybody lives. And you got to see their schools and their houses and everything else. And it was very educational. We really learned a lot on this thing. And it was really nice. The people were great on that train. And it was quite nice. We rather enjoyed it. That's one thing we like when we go is we like to try to learn about their culture and everything and not just spend a day on the beach all the time. I will say though, I really wish I would have done snorkeling. I really wish I would have done that. I just heard so many afterwards, the people that did go snorkeling, how wonderful it is. And even from the shore, we saw so many fish just from the shore that I really was kind of kicking myself for not doing some type of snorkeling there.
How long was your tour?
That was a couple hours. And then after that, we just kind of walked around ourselves and shopping and things like that.
Do any of these ports have extended hours or most of them like in by 7, out by 3:30?
We stayed into the evening on those. In fact, that was one I was able to get off. I got off the ship. I think we left at 10. I got back off at like 9, and I got some beautiful shots of the ship at night and stuff docked there and everything. But that was another thing that was different too. And I don't know if this is whenever we stay in a port that late, they changed the hours of like Guy's Burgers and the taco place. So they were open, they're usually tacos, close at 2. They did a later one, and same with Guy's Burgers too. They stayed open till like 9 the one night when we were in Bonaire.
Nice. Then you rounded it out with Curacao. How was your day there?
Same thing where we just kind of got off and walked around, tried to find our own thing there. And the Queen Emma Bridge, I had no idea what this thing was. I'm sure you're familiar with it. We were walking across it, and the bells start ringing. Uh-huh. Hey, why are we swinging out? If anybody isn't familiar with this, it's a really old bridge built in like 1880 or something, 1890 or something. And it's, instead of a drawbridge lifting up, it swings to the side, and it's all on pontoons and very interesting. So we were kind of stuck on it until the boats went through and stuff. But it's a very neat bridge, and that was a lot of fun, and very picturesque place. So we got a lot of nice pictures and stuff there, and just did some shopping and walking around. And afterwards, we kind of wish we would have done some type of excursion, but it was good. It was still nice to be there, and it was 80 some degrees out, and it was cold back home. So we were happy.
Plus, Curacao is a very walkable port where the ships dock there. But I didn't realize that because it's like a 500-foot bridge built in the late 1800s. It's on these pontoons, but I didn't know you could actually stand on it while it was moving.
Yeah, and we were kind of joking because in the United States, when it swings open, there is no gate at the end. In the United States, they'd have to have big gates and people stand there to tell you got to go so close to the edge or something, but it's open, you can you can walk right off and stuff. But yeah, everybody was on there. We were halfway across when it just all of a sudden the spell started going off, and we were like looking around like, what's that? And next thing I knew, we were moving.
So the ABC Islands were on your cruise bucket list. Did it live up to the hype?
Yes, and like I said, except for the fact that we kind of wish we did an excursion in Curacao or some snorkeling in Bonaire. Yeah, it was wonderful. We loved it there, and I think we're going to try to go back there sometime.
Does a cruise like this, 8 nights out of Miami, ABC Islands, 2 sea days in the front and 2 in the back?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to love those extra sea days before reality sinks in.
Yeah. And that's the way we usually like it, like one on each end, or even just one at the end. I mean, just to unwind and have that last relaxed day before you have to, because for us, usually it's almost a full day travel to get back home even, and then usually right back to work. So
anything exciting happen on those 2 sea days back to Miami?
The only thing that happened, and that was a little... we found a lost child near the elevators, and right there, probably deck 5 or so, by where the pixels or the picture where you pick up your pictures and stuff. And we came across this little boy. He was just crying and can't find his mom and everything. And so my wife stayed with him, and I went over to the picture gallery and told the guys working there, I said, we got a lost child over here. Can we make an announcement or something? And they said, you need to go to guest services. Wow. It kind of bothered me that they couldn't do something right there. And I run all the way down to guest services, and there's a huge line. So I butt in front of everybody and say, there's, lost child and stuff. But before we got back with somebody, mom had actually come back. So luckily, but
I would have said, there's a phone right there. Could you call guest services and alert them, please?
Yeah, I probably should have. Yeah, I don't know what they're...
Well, hindsight's 20/20, so...
Yeah.
So you make your way back to Port Miami. How was debark?
Good. Because we had heard there being issues, I don't know if it's because of the traffic or what, but we usually take an Uber. So we decided we were going to take Carnival's own shuttle back. And we're kind of glad we did, because that's all we heard was that the Ubers and the Lyfts and everything, people had a terrible, terrible, terrible time getting them. So we were able to get on the shuttle and get to the airport, no problem, and everything. And yeah, the whole debark was pretty smooth and right off the ship. So,
do you have any first-time tips to offer anyone sailing Carnival Magic or a Dream class ship?
This ship in particular, we've only been the spa cabin 3 times now, and Radiance did not even have the thermal suite tub or jacuzzi tub, whatever you call it. Boy, they have a huge one on Magic. We loved it, and we can't believe how many times we went up there. We had the whole thing to ourselves.
Yeah, it's nice.
It was so nice. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, the use of spa, we think it's definitely worth the money to go up there and use that. So that would be one of my first advice, especially on this ship. And that was just so nice. I couldn't believe that we got to sit in there by ourselves so often and everything. Any other tips? Things that we've kind of changed. We used to get, we're not big drinkers. So whenever we get a drink, we just pay for them. Mm-hmm. We never get a drink package, but we'd get a soda package quite often. And this time we decided to carry on our own soda and try that out. And we actually like that because so often soda on the cruise ship is warm. And as soon as they put it on ice, it's just watered down. Mm-hmm. And so we really enjoyed bringing our own soda on this time. Don't know if we're going to do that every time, but that is something that we personally kind of changed. Other than that, Dream class ship, I'm not sure if there's any other hints that I have for that. It was a nice ship. It's a good size ship. Especially, I'm not even sure. Do you know what kind of things they're changing with the dry dock?
I'm not really sure what they're doing on this one. I'm sure the general refresh and it pretty much has everything that the other ships have at this point. I'm sure someone could correct me on this, but one thing going back to the thermal suite, Tim, it's funny because this Dream class ship, and I guess Splendor too, they have that amazing Theralossotherapy hot tub in the front, like you were talking about, with you could see through the roof at the top there, and then they built the Vista class ships, which is the next class following the Dream class, and they made it like a little hot tub. It was very strange. They added so many more people to Vista than Dream class, but they shrunk that pool to. Have you seen the one on the Vista class? It's just a tiny hot tub in there, like a bathtub.
Yeah, that was the first one we did, was a Vista. And yeah, it's probably, maybe 8 people?
If that, yeah. I would say 6.
Yeah, and this thing, I mean, you're talking 20 people sitting in this one. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it's huge. And yeah, you're right. It has the windows above you. It's also got windows not directly in the front, kind of a front to the one side. I mean, there's just a lot of glass to look out, and yeah, it was just amazing how big it is. Yeah, and then they do that. That's the same thing we feel with the Havana areas too. We like them on the Vista ships. And then they go and build the XL class, and they make the Havana area just dinky.
There's a word for that. Oh, yeah, prioritizing revenue at the cost to the consumer.
I guess, yeah. Although, people like us are willing to pay more for a spa room or a Havana area when... Yeah. It's worth using it, because I don't think we ever would on an XL class.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for you?
Oh, of course, getting away is always the best part, but just the whole thing and visiting these islands for the first time. We've cruised, this was cruise 17. So, we're starting to hit up and repeat places a lot. So to get to 3 new places that we had never been to was a big highlight for us. And they're just all beautiful islands, and so many people that we talked to too just had such a great time learning about the islands and the tours that they did and stuff like that, and picturesque. They're just all beautiful. The beach that we're on, I mean, if somebody who wants to have a bunch of beautiful pictures when you're done, this was a great cruise for that.
And your final thoughts of Carnival Magic?
Wonderful ship. I would sail it again. Really enjoyed the ship. This is, I can't say it's our favorite, but it's really up there. We really enjoyed the ship overall. And especially after refurb, I'm sure it's in the dry dock, it's going to be just a beautiful ship. Cause like you said, it has got everything on there already. And even at this point, we didn't feel like it seemed like it was 15 years old and worn out or anything like that at all.
And if you want to see any of Tim's videos or coverage of Carnival Magic, you can check it out on his YouTube channel, Cruising Together Couple, also on Facebook as well. We'll link to it in the show notes at cruiseradio.net. Tim, as always, thanks for stopping by, my friend. Welcome back and enjoy that snow.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get out and shovel as soon as we're done here, I think. So, I'll be thinking of you.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,